I got today on my show, I got Scotty Stiles. He's going to share with us his amazing recovery story. Tell us, what symptoms were you dealing with, and give us a story.
All right. Hey, Helmut. Thank you for having me. It's nice to be here and to share my story. So I'm Scotty Stiles. You may know me as How to Heal Chronic Pain online. I'm a coach. I do pain reprocessing therapy with my clients, and Mindbody coach, helping others heal the same way I healed myself, of course. So where it all began, oh my goodness. Well, the symptoms, that I had, even as far back as like being a teenager, a lot of anxiety, back pain, just kind of seemingly coming up out of the blue for no really apparent reason. And it's funny, I've mentioned this on other podcasts. It's like, as a teenager, I thought, oh, isn't that interesting? Like my back kind of hurts. Maybe I'm already getting older or something, right? That kind of thought crosses your mind, this whole notion, this myth that's out there that, aging equals pain. But, at 17 years old, like, why am I having this type of pain? Now, this wasn't like all the time. It was just kind of, maybe for a day or two, and then it would go away. So back pain was like my opening to this world, I suppose. But at the time, I wasn't really consciously aware of, what this was all about, what was going on. As years went on, just to kind of like, give a shortened version of symptoms, throughout, my 20s into my 30s, the pain started becoming more and more, ramping up every year, really, more, until it was just constantly there. So this was like hip pain, back pain, and eventually it just, totally robbed me of my life. I wasn't really able to do much.
So at 17, that makes sense. Like teenager years for me, I would think, grade 9 to, when you start going into high school, start, having friends, being a teenager, that makes sense, right? That's the normal stresses. And then the older you got new stresses coming up in life. I'm sure you'll give me some feedback on that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, all the stresses, and I mean, looking back, it makes perfect sense. And then I also had other symptoms, predominantly musculoskeletal. So even when I discovered the Mindbody solution and TMS, Dr. Sarno's theory of TMS, and I was healing, I would have all these symptom imperatives like wrist pain, foot pain. Those were some of the wildest ones, even 3 years into my healing journey, like when I was officially doing the work. Tinnitus, what else? Panic disorder, heat intolerance, dry eye, knee pain, obsessive ruminating thoughts, so many things. Yeah.
Yep, I had those, the OCD looping thoughts and the anxiety. So yeah, you're starting to add up on the symptoms. And when that was happening, this was happening while you were doing the work? Is that when it started to manifest more?
Yeah, I was having, this symptom imperative phenomenon, right, that Dr. Sarno talks about, where you resolve one symptom, but then your body wants to communicate to you, I'm going to shoot a symptom here, I'm going to shoot one there, just to keep diverting your attention so that you're not, psychologically focusing on the solution. And the brain wants to, keep you protected somehow. So that's what was happening for me. Yeah. But, just to kind of go back to, like, in terms of the story you were asking about, like stressors, a lot of people will have childhood stress, that makes these things happen. And I think for me, the biggest thing that I had, I grew up thinking I had a perfect childhood and all these things. Even, I spoke with a therapist like 10 years ago, and one of the first things they like to ask you is like, how was your childhood? I was like, it was great. Like, I like playing forts with my friends, and, growing up here in Ontario, like it's pretty awesome, and we're both in Canada.
It's crazy how when you go into the mind body space, you start to find people that are in Toronto, Montreal, close by. It's pretty cool.
So I mean, I had this picture of my life being totally fine, like no real trauma, no real big T trauma. But of course, I think I'm minimizing my experience as a child growing up, hiding my sexuality. I think that in and of itself is a trauma, because and I didn't maybe make that connection. But when you feel unsafe in the world that you live in, this could be extremely dysregulating for your nervous system. And so hiding that and repressing your truth, I think
Well,
was a huge.
how long did you hide it for?
I was 22 when I finally did come out. Yeah.
To your family and friends and
Yeah, everyone. Yeah, everyone. Like, friends first, and then family kind of trickled in after that. Yeah.
so
Um,
that could totally, because what you're doing is like you're stuffing the emotions, you're hiding what you truly your authentic self, right?
exactly.
All these things, they add up, and then the more you do it, then it's the anticipatory anxiety that's building up, where okay, I'm going to do it, and then the aftermath. So there's so many different levels to this.
Totally. And that was like, that forms your personality, right? When you're a child, like, you learn all of your coping mechanisms, how to keep yourself safe, how to keep
Yep.
people perceiving you a certain way. When you're trying to hide your sexuality, you're basically like trying to become somebody who you're not. and
Right.
and then you kind of learn that behavior. And so even after I came out, I still had all these maladaptive coping mechanisms, like trying to be seen as a certain way, or even in the gay world, like trying to be seen as, there's a
Right.
lot of competition there, and a lot of, a lot of stuff around, how you look and
Right.
attractiveness and all this stuff too. So there was just like a lot of pressure around my personality traits, and, all of the personality traits that Dr. Sarno talks about, like people pleasing, perfectionism,
Right.
high achieving, needing to be liked, highly insecure, all of these things. So I didn't, I don't know another life. So I just kind of thought that's who I am. This is normal, right? But my system is just, sending all these danger alarms for obvious reasons, right? Um, so yeah, that and what you said about, authenticity is so true. And Gabor Mate talks about that. We have this, um, this sort of this balance that we have between our needing to keep our authenticity, um,
Yep.
and this need for attachment when we're kids. And so, you know, I wouldn't be able to conceptualize that as a child, but I think I feared this, ultimate fear of losing my attachment if I were to have come out to my parents. Now, of course, they love me and accept me and everything's great, but you just don't know. And you hear horror stories and you try to
Yeah.
infer around you, like, is this going to be okay? Like, I don't know. Like, what if I'm one of those people that I see on, the Ricky Lake talk show growing up, all these people fighting on stage, like, I'm going to kick you to the
Right.
curb. Like,
We're
all that.
conditioned. Yeah. We're
Yeah.
conditioned to, you know, think it's going to be difficult, but generally it was, it was pretty, was it, how was it coming out with like your parents were receptive? They're like, okay, did they know? Did they have a feeling before?
They don't say that they knew, but I don't think they did. Honestly, I think I did a pretty good
Yeah.
job of hiding it. I had some friends that kind of had an idea. I had some friends that were like, "Why didn't you tell me?" Right? Like, you do
Right.
get a reaction like that, like you're fine. Like, this is totally good. Now,
Okay.
keep in mind, like, this is like the early 2000s. Like, that's things have changed a lot since then, and people were
Yeah.
afraid, still like kind of afraid to come out. So the
Yeah.
times have changed a bit, and I was just trying to sort of almost like, kind of assess the tone of the environment in like
Right.
media and like culture wise and everything. And like, I think back in those days, Ellen DeGeneres, she first had come out,
Yep.
and then her sitcom completely tanked. And then I thought, oh no, well, that wasn't a very good reaction. So I'm going to stay in the closet. Right. So I didn't come
Right.
out. I thought, oh, maybe things are changing, not that you're even consciously thinking like, I'm going to do what she does, but and then
Right.
later on, a few years later, more people started coming out. And I think, that kind of set the tone of, feeling maybe safe socially enough to do that. And yeah.
Right. But still, you're still dealing with all the years that you filled up your allostatic loads, even though it's finally being accepted, but body keeps score.
Right. And all those same fear thoughts are there. I probably still have them, right? It's all so subconscious, like just the
Yeah.
way I react to anything, like fear of being judged, fear of being disliked. Like that is, that happens to anybody. But maybe my interpretation of that is just so heightened because of what I went through as a child. Yeah.
Well, and then throw in maybe the regular stuff that everybody goes through. For me, it was drinking, smoking, toxic work environments, toxic relationships, like all that, add that on top, and then you're perfect candidate for some symptoms.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. I can relate to all that too. Because the drinking and the smoking, a lot of that was like keeping up with the social pressures, right?
Right.
And then it was like numbing the emotions that I didn't want to deal with as well. So it's like it's a mix of everything. It's like trying to fit in and then drinking.
Yep.
Now I have like an alcohol problem because alcohol is the only thing I can use to numb the pain. So
Right.
that's a huge part of my journey too. I'm very open about. And I think 2016, 8 years ago now, is when I decided to stop drinking, which was actually before I started my official Mindbody journey. I just knew there was something about alcohol that was not working for me anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, it makes perfect sense because it completely dysregulates your nervous system.
Oh yes, big time.
And the hangovers would make the pain worse. So I was like, I got to choose what's worse here. And I'd rather just be sober and deal with the pain than have this like roller coaster of like extreme hangovers and so much pain that, because of the hangovers, going into panic attacks and all that stuff. So that was, luckily I did that first, but.
Yeah, I remember I got a sensitivity to alcohol because of all the drinking that I did. And thank goodness, sometimes these alarms and and sensitivities are a great thing because it's just forcing you to stop. And over the years after I regulated, now I can drink whatever I want with alcohol. But now I stopped that habit. So now I do it once in a blue moon. But it's interesting how um, you can create sensitivities, and then with alcohol, it's horrible on the body physically. And then you add cigarettes. Every smoke is like a bomb going off to the nervous system.
Right. Yeah.
And that adds up.
Yep. I was doing the cigarettes. I was all that stuff for sure. Yeah.
So, okay. So you started doing the Sarnos. What age were you at?
Yeah.
When
So I
did
started.
you start that?
Yeah, of course. I was like in my sort of mid 30s,
Right.
and I had tried everything. Before I got to Sarno,
Yep.
Of course, like many people, you follow the sort of conventional medicine approach, and you go to your doctor, and he says, "Okay, you can see this specialist," that sort of thing. Saw a surgeon. Now, the
Right.
surgeon didn't really say there was much that they could do,
Yeah.
other than like injections or refer you out to sports medicine therapy, chiro, physio, all this stuff that we always hear.
Yeah.
He didn't have the best bedside manner. In retrospect, he was pretty cold and didn't really leave me with much hope. But at least he didn't, have an aggressive approach of saying you need surgery.
Right.
There's
Thank goodness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
thank goodness. Yeah, because maybe if I were in the States, where there's more profit gain for people in their medical industry, maybe less in Canada with our healthcare system, but
Yeah.
yeah. So he said that it didn't require surgery, but they did find things, right? So they find all these things that
Right.
I naturally, like anyone, would blame for the pain. So things like bulging discs, spinal stenosis, femoral narrowing, disc degeneration, arthritis, and this is before I knew that all of these things are normal findings. These are normal abnormalities, as doctors
I love that word. Normal abnormalities.
Exactly.
It explains everything.
Exactly. Yeah. But like with so many people, you get an MRI and then you have more fear, and then your pain actually goes up, and that is actually what happened. And even when I went for this injection, whatever it was, I think I maybe went once or twice. The amount of fear I had from just that procedure, or whatever you want to call it, like of them sticking the needle in my butt, was it was so demoralizing and so traumatizing that I went home right after, and the pain just increased. I was like, this doesn't even work. Like, what is the point? And it's funny because I think it created more of a nocebo really than it did a placebo.
Right.
Maybe if it did work, there would have been like some placebo relief, being told like, hey, yeah, this is going to make the pain go down. But nobody spoke to me about it. I just kind of show up, tell them my name, and they're like, you're here for your shot. You're like, okay, sure. They stick it in you and they tell you to go, and you feel like you're like just so violated. And then I go home expecting the pain to go away, and I'm like, of course, it makes sense that the pain went up because I was so preoccupied, like checking in on it. Like, okay, what's it doing now? What's it doing now? Okay, it's still here. Oh my God, it's not working. Oh, now the shot's not working. Oh my God, oh my God. And then that, ramped up my system to just produce more pain. And so that kind of makes sense that happened. But
You know that now, but at the
yeah,
time, how did you handle that? That would have been, yeah, that would have looped the nervous system to give you even more, bring your baseline up even more.
absolutely. Yeah, it was a lot of hopeless, a lot of rock bottom moments, and that was in 2015. Yeah, 2015.
Yeah,
And so around that time was when I was trying everything, physio, chiro, osteo, acupuncture, and and then I did come across Dr. Sarno in 2015
yeah,
online, and I kind of, I read his book, I think like an online version of healing back pain, and I thought, okay, this sounds okay, but I was still skeptical. And then I was even watching, YouTube videos of people talking about it, thinking like, are these real people? Like, are they trying to sell something? What is this? And so
yeah.
I kind of, tried to like adopt the mindset and really tried to understand it for about 3 days. And I remember I went swimming, and then I was like, oh, I actually kind of feel better. And in hindsight, yeah, it was kind of starting to work, calming the danger neural circuits that was responsible for the pain through neuroplasticity. And
Yep.
then I remember at the time, my roommate, who was not really a good friend of mine at the time anyway, had like a judgmental comment and said, because I was so excited, I said, oh, I found this Dr. Sarno guy. Like, I think this is maybe what's going on. And she looked at me and she said, oh, so it's just in your head? It's just nothing? And
Yeah.
I was like, no, it is something. Like, I'm still actually feeling the pain, but I didn't have the language or the understanding to really, you
Back
know,
it up with
back it up.
confidence.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And it felt like so invalidating. So I went right back into, well, it's my bulging discs then, well, but they did find something just to sort of have something to hold on to. And so many people do that. People are
Yeah.
just, they'll never, they'll stay on the fence. They'll never make that flip until they can firmly be like, this is, good that we want to accept this. It doesn't mean it's in your head. We
Yeah.
want to make this change of how we conceptualize it. So sadly, that took me another 2 years
Right.
until I really did give everything, everything I could to get better. At that point, I did the things like quitting drinking.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
I changed all my diet, like anti-inflammatory diet. I went keto. I lost a bunch of weight because I thought, hey, like maybe 20 pounds lighter is gonna like feel better, which I mean, logically, you think that would make sense, but no, 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 no. That's insane.
If anything, sometimes it could, if you're too strict with yourself, you're putting yourself more in a stress, state, more in a survival state, because you're also teaching your brain that foods are dangerous, and
Yeah,
and I'm seeing that's a common thing everywhere with people.
totally. Yeah. In fact, that's funny you say that because, yeah, seeing the foods as dangerous is bad, and also just the pressure that I was putting on myself. Again, it was kind of intertwined with appearances and wanting to be perceived a certain way. And I was
Yeah.
dating, and I was actually like in really good shape, but at the time I didn't think I was, or at least I thought I wasn't there yet because I was still in pain. And so all this pressure to look a certain way, all this pressure to, have the pain gone by fixing the diet was just not going to work. And yeah, I remember I was on a trip to London, England, and I just couldn't relax at all with my friends. Oftentimes you'll go on a vacation and you'll have the vacation effect, and because
Right.
you've removed all the stressors from your life and the pain goes away. But this was the opposite. I was on this vacation and the pain just kept going up because I was really wanting it so badly to go away, and it was not going away. And so it was
Yep.
after that trip, got back to Canada, went to this, Canadians will know this vintage store called Value Village. And I'm like
Yep.
walking around the book section, and I see Dr. Sarno, Mindbody prescription. And that was, one of these moments that it just comes to you.
That's gold.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, out of all places in the world, the used section of Value Village, which is like where people donate shit, compared to the books that I was reading, that I was spending hundreds of dollars on, like ordering them off Amazon or buying them, wherever, and they cost a fortune,
Mhm.
and they did nothing. They made things worse, like the medical medium, shit like that.
Oh, yeah.
And then the golden nuggets are uh, going through it yourself, talking to people online, and buying the right, getting the right information. That was probably the hardest thing, is because there's so much misinformation out there. I would say like 99% of the shit that's out there on YouTube, Google, right? All these naturopaths, all these different types of functional medicine, Facebook groups, right?
Yeah.
How could I forget that? Facebook groups, right? And then you were able to find, one of the good nuggets of information in a used clothing store, which is kind of
So,
funny. It's
yeah.
almost universe is having a joke. It's
Yeah.
hilarious how that came out.
Yeah. And I mean, it was good that I initially discovered it in 2015. Otherwise, I wouldn't have known what that was. I might have just seen like healing back pain because and thought like, oh, that's just like any of those other books. In fact, when you do look at, the book section, most of the stuff on pain is going to be about, stretch this way and yoga for back pain and all this stuff like that.
Yep, managing. Yeah.
Yeah, that's all just kind of like, strengthening and whatever, all of these like physical approaches for, TMS, neuroplastic pain, which doesn't work at all, because you're just trying to fix it. And I tried literally all of those things that everybody does try. So yeah, I just got so lucky with that book. And I immediately bought it. And then I just said, I'm going to quit everything else, literally cold turkey, stop going to the osteopath, stop doing everything else.
Nice. Good.
And, yeah, I went for it. Yeah.
So you went, that's the thing that I noticed for me, when I found the mind body space with these tools that I found, for some reason, I don't know why, but I stuck with it. I was like 1000% committed. I wasn't straddling the fence, and I did it, and it took me 3 years, and I fully recovered. But then you see this a lot in the mind body space everywhere you go, where people, they try it a little bit and they do just enough so they get a little relief, and then they go back to their old ways, right? And then they keep making having to take the programs over, or some of them, they don't really ever start, but they know it inside out. So it makes sense why some people get stuck, right? Where you have to make that decision, and that's where that's what happened to you, where you're like, "That's it. I'm stop fucking around. We're gonna get down to it, and we're gonna focus on this and do this every day, and start implementing the methods." So that's
Yeah,
amazing. Yeah.
exactly. Unfortunately, it's talked about a lot in the mind body community that you have to like hit this rock bottom before you can fully accept this approach. But
Yeah.
I think it should be the other way around. Everybody
Should be. Yeah.
growing up and know that this is just your nervous system and how it's supposed to actually operate. The fact that you have all this pain
Yeah.
and just getting your attention, and it doesn't mean it's being structurally caused. And that should just be an easy conversation to have. That's like not, making people think that they're crazy or, that's not the message.
Yeah. Or hogwash. It's all hogwash. It's all woo woo, right?
Yeah.
People are like, okay, are you, it's, and I can understand it in a way, because it's like you can't think yourself out. Like, doesn't make it this is hippie shit. This doesn't make any sense. But this is the way. It's not so easy. It's not just you can't think your way out. There's actual, number one, science to it, proof, right? Proof is in the pudding, and it's hard work. It's really hard work. You're actually doing stuff every day to change your brain, to update the alarm system, and being consistent, right? So it's not hogwash. There's an actual evidence and success stories everywhere you go.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. So okay, so you did that. For how long when did you stick to that? When you made that decision, how long did it take for you to recover?
Yeah. So once I grabbed the book, started reading it, within the first week, I had, one of those miraculous, like, it's not there moments. Like, the pain is actually gone. And you're like, no way.
Yeah.
So that's how you know it's working, right? Now, of course, it came back. It wasn't gone forever, but that was just, a nice way to recognize that this has to be what's going on. If I'm not feeling this pain that I had in my hip and back, literally for probably, it was the pain was turned on, this neural circuit just on like a light switch. It had been turned on probably like consistently daily since 2014, and this is now 2018. So like a good 4 years with like constant pain. And so just, within a week, having moments of absolutely no pain was just crazy to me. Funnily enough, I had dry eye immediately as like the pain went away. And I was like, what's going on? I actually went out and got glasses and all this stuff because I was hyper fixated on my vision. Sure enough, I had astigmatism that had always been there, but I just hadn't noticed it. And I thought like my vision had dramatically changed overnight. Maybe it did in like a weird TMSy way.
Yeah.
But I mean, I still have those glasses, but I just use them for like nighttime driving and watching movies and stuff. So there's nothing wrong with my eyes.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, but yeah. And then of course, the pain came back. There was more work to do. It's not an overnight thing. You hear all over the place. There's these book cures and whatnot. And so, in a sense, like, yeah, I was having a book cure. That's what was happening to me. But, we're on a mind-body journey for our entire lives. So that was just the beginning of learning how my system worked. Now, I think it probably took like another 5 months to be in like a really good place where I was like, okay, things are starting to click here. But back in those days, this is still like a lot of Instagram coaching, and curable hadn't really been on the radar for a lot of people.
Right.
It just wasn't out there that much. So most of what people were doing were either things on the TMS wiki or just reading the books. So I was reading like Steve Ozanich and Dr. Howard Schubiner, of course, other Dr. Sarno books. And so that's what I thought all you had to do was just do the books, because that's what Dr. Sarno said. You just read the books. And
Right.
you like this list of 12 steps, like 12 reminders. But I was like, why am I not getting better? And luckily, over the years, the work has evolved. So now, like, we can take Dr. Sarno's steps and so many people have other ways of utilizing those steps, because he just kind of says, think psychological. But it's like, that's really broad. Like, how do we actually
Yeah.
Oh my God. So, the thing that really put the nail in the coffin, like at the 5-month mark, was actually discovering Nicole Sachs. And, she's done all that journal speak stuff. And I saw her, and I just remember like, it's like almost like seeing, I'm a big music fan. It's like seeing like your favorite musician that you just discovered for the first time. And I was just like, what, who's this woman?
Yeah.
And just like, she's just like, just pulls you in, she draws you in. She's like, this is how this works. No BS. Like, this is how this works. Like, why would you question this? And so I was.
Well, and it also helped with your mind, with your evidence, because she's already speaking familiar terms, because you're already in it. And then she's like, yes, it's this, that, and the other, but it's also this. And it just probably clicked right away. You're like, that makes sense now.
Yeah. And then this added tool of journaling, right? Because like,
Right.
I needed something to do, and like something to process the emotions, something to really figure out, there was the emotion factors. There was a lot of how I was talking to myself, so I can sort of address, this self-compassion piece as well in the journaling, which I kind of uniquely did. It was pretty profound. And so within about a month of doing that consistently every day, doing the journaling just as she told me to do, the symptoms went away almost for the entire summer that year.
So what's the journaling? Was it is it almost like a version of exposure? You write down what you're feeling, you feel the feelings, and then you kind of engage in with your life as if you were fine? Is that the gist of it, or give us the lowdown?
Well, yeah. I mean, in general, you want to be engaging in your life as if you're fine, but just for this moment of journaling, she calls it journal speak. Yeah. Many people are familiar with this, and the whole point is you would just kind of rage on the page for 20 minutes. You can call this sort of like a pen vent. And you can write about 3 different things. You can write about your childhood, your current life stressors, and your personality traits. And these, in these 3 columns, those are pretty much the things that are creating this conflict in your system that are responsible for TMS symptoms. So you can start off by making the lists just to categorize, okay. And then you can pull from any of those things and just rage on the page for 20 minutes about any particular thing. And then the whole point is to not really be talking about the pain, though. We're really focusing on the thinking psychological, and we're just going to write about emotions and how you're feeling and how this made you feel, and really trying to get out of like the cognition of it and into the feeling of it. So
that's awesome.
So when I actually like help my clients with journaling, I encourage them to actually write like I feel statements, to say like how you feel, and you can like write about the emotion, but then actually like write down like where you feel it in your body, because we feel emotions in the body, right? And kind of tune into yourself somatically, and we want to really kind of combine both. And then kind of naturally, I didn't even realize I was doing it, and I also find this helpful for people is when you're writing, you want to kind of end on this sort of taking this stance of empowerment, because so often we're used to blaming ourselves for everything. And so when we're addressing, sort of challenging emotions like anger, rage, grief, and, guilt and all these things, we kind of become a little, hurtful towards ourselves or criticize ourselves. So the whole point is to not turn our anger inward, because that's what's happening. That's why we're having symptoms oftentimes, is because we're turning our anger inward, and then our system is like, oh, we don't like this. The inner child is like, F you, here's a symptom, like, stop beating me up, stop criticizing me. So the whole point is, express how you feel, and then tell yourself, like, you're allowed to feel that way. You're worthy. You're allowed to be angry from something that happened to you as a child, or something that's happening in your life now. Like, that's totally valid. And, and then give yourself that self-compassion, and, allow that.
What I've noticed with my journey, and when I talk to other people that are going through this, I get a lot of questions where they'll be like, yeah, but when I allow it, or for example, if they were to journal something, I get triggered and I don't feel good. It feels horrible. And then it's like, well, that's what you want. You want to, learn to feel the shame, learn to feel the guilt, and learn to feel afraid or scared. Learn to feel like shit. That's pretty much how I say it. So to kind of so people get it quick, like, you're going to feel like shit. It's going to be a nightmare. You're going to make exorcisms jealous, but that's what you want. You need to feel that. And it's not going to be like, oh, I'm going to do the methods that should feel good now, right? Why isn't it going away? It should be, holy fuck, you're literally triggered. It's out of 10, right? Feel the feelings and then engage. And that's like, for me, it's like a bit of exposure in there, because when you do it over and over again, you bring the alarm from a 10 to a 5 to a 3. So it's literally listening, acknowledging the alarms, just a different version of what you're talking about with Nicole, the way she does it with the journaling.
Right. Yeah. And we've naturally learned to repress our emotions, whether we know it or not. That's the whole thing. And Dr. Sarno talks about this. The reason why you have pain as a result of the repressed emotions, it's the emotions that you can't see. So we just want to actually do the opposite and bring those emotions to the surface. And then, like you said, they're uncomfortable. You feel them in your body. But that's your opportunity to feel the discomfort, and, like, where is it in your body? Like, let's find out what that is. Okay, is it tightness? Is it this? Is your throat? Is it clammy? Is it that? And then you're building that tolerance to that emotion and being like, okay, no, this is actually okay. You're training your brain to not that's dangerous. And then in the future, when you have uncomfortable emotions come up, you kind of like authentically process them in the moment so that they're not getting pressed.
Right.
Kind of think like, oh, how am I feeling right now? You might not even have to journal forever. I mean, I don't journal.
Right.
Right.
Well, you're maintaining it. You're doing it's not a program anymore. It's a lifestyle. Now you're regulating as you go, and it's, and it's not catching up where you have to stop life and do a program, or, deal with all these alarms, and you got to wait 3 years until you get there again. You constantly, it becomes a lifestyle.
Yeah. Exactly.
That's amazing.
Yeah, I mean, you're rewiring your subconscious so that you are literally teaching your subconscious to be able to interpret new information that comes at you in the future. Like, you now have a new subconscious program built in that can handle whatever comes at it. So yeah.
That's awesome. So when you reach recovery, did you decide, okay, I'm going to start, I feel like I have a purpose. This is something I need to share. Because in a way, it's like winning the lottery, because not many people in the world know about this kind of stuff. And you are like the lucky one, like the people in the mind-body space that have been through it. You feel like, this is like, some crazy shit that I have come across. Nobody knows about it. It's like a secret little key that I have. It's like, we're in a secret club. Nobody knows. And I'm, I'm fully recovered. Did you feel that at all?
Not at first. You know why? Because I still felt not good enough. I still felt like, who am I to speak on this? And I wasn't maybe fully recovered, and I was still dealing with some pain. Now I'm very open about it. This took years to get to be like, even this year I had the biggest flare I've had probably in 4 years. And I went live on Instagram about it. I was like, okay, here I am. I'm a human being. Let's talk about it. I'm going to show you what I'm going to do now. And like, do some wonky, somatic and self-compassion practice on myself and model that for everybody that follows me. But yeah, at some point I did obviously, have this sort of aha moment of like, yeah, this is what I should be doing. Oh my goodness. But I definitely was keeping myself quite small, but that's all part of the journey. As you're growing your own personal mind body journey, and it kind of naturally blossomed into wanting to do this professionally. Now, of course, as I mentioned, I started this mind body journey at the end of 2017. But it wasn't until after COVID in 2020 and all of that crap that happened
That's
that,
like extra training. You know what I mean? We
yeah.
might think of it as like, oh no, that's shit. That's not good. But it's actually, it teaches you more. It's opportunities to teach you more.
Oh yeah, I had barely scratched the surface. I thought I was done. In those 2 years, I was like, okay, I'm good. Yeah, whatever. I was like booking all these trips. I was supposed to go to Barcelona in May of 2020, and that never happened. But at the time, it's funny. I think I was still running. I was like trying to just run away from the pain as a solution. I was like, oh, I feel great on vacation, so let's just like do lots of trips, right? And now, I know that wouldn't have lasted forever. So
Right.
did need like some crazy awful thing like COVID to happen to have more breakthroughs. There were so many other pieces of the puzzle that I hadn't been aware of. Like I basically was not even aware of this whole somatic piece.
Right.
Understanding that we want to feel safe in the body and to process emotions somatically. I didn't understand that. And so in 2020, I was like trying to journal my pain away. And I was getting, so fed up. I'd written about everything and it wasn't working anymore.
Right.
And, now I know why, because we can't, be using the tools to get rid of the pain, which is so obnoxious because of course that's what we use tools.
Secretly, that's what it's like the hidden, it's a little secret. Yes, we're doing that, but don't
Yeah.
say it out loud.
Yeah.
It's like, and people, they use it as a weapon. It's like, okay, I'm going to do this method and why are you still there? Okay. So there's like, there's a small print, there's conditions, right? And that's when we have to fully allow it to be there without any hidden conditions. And that's when the brain goes, okay, he's sending a message of safety and the danger. Okay, I trust him. Let's turn off the alarm, and then you move forward. But it's good that we went through that stage of trying to get rid of it with these methods to learn the contrast of what to do after learning what not to do.
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. And then I discovered somatic tracking, pain reprocessing therapy. This is all probably 3 years ago. And that really shifted things to lean into the sensations through a lens of safety, to understand like I need to actually face these sensations and not just be running all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's counterintuitive.
Oh,
And
wow.
even when you're still gonna fuck up the first 50 times. You'd be like, I know what to do, but you still resist it, right? Because what you resist persists. But it's still like, okay, I'm gonna no, I'm not. Right. But it's like riding a bike. It takes time. You got to learn it. You got to go through it. You got to fall on your face. Every time you fail, that's another time that you learned something and you build leverage slowly. Because learning this stuff isn't just, oh, I read about it. Now I fucking know this shit inside out. It's something that you literally, build up to.
Yeah. Yeah. That's why it's almost dangerous that people know about the book Cure, because they think like, what, but I've read everything. Why isn't it working? But it's like, are you living it? Are you like being the book?
Yeah. Right.
Are
Hands
you?
on every day, body on, right?
Yeah. It is, having that embodied approach is so important. Yeah. And that was definitely the missing link for me. And then the other missing link would have been definitely the self-compassion piece.
Mm-hmm.
Being aware of being caught in like patterns of self-criticism, worry, and pressure. I got to the point where I started to recognize, even in the moment, and it was a good thing to be able to get to this place, to kind of I'd have a symptom come on, just like a spark of pain in the hip or the back or whatever, just going about your day, and oh, there it is, and then I would immediately go to, what was I just thinking about? Like 5 minutes ago, what was going on in my mind? And sure enough, I was having some sort of judgment about myself, of how I was being perceived, or how I looked, or my self-worth, or what I wanted to do with my life, like all of those things. And that, really, that those thoughts are releasing stress hormones, and those stress hormones, this conflict in our system, and then the body's just letting us know, hey,
it's a good thing.
Yeah.
Right. Like if you get a flu or a cold or whatever, I think it's a good thing when you have them, because it tells you where you're at.
Yeah.
It's a communication. You're having communication with your brain. You're finally understanding each other. You're speaking the same language. That's powerful, because as long as you can communicate with each other, there's always a way that, especially when you've learned it and been through the journey, you'll always find the door out, right? And especially when life is going to keep throwing curveballs, because it has to. That's life, right? You're trained at it. You've become an Olympian in the mind-body space, like in your own body. You've discovered yourself, and now you're able to process what is thrown at you so much easier, instead of being stuck in this loop of fighting off symptoms.
Yeah. Yeah, it's twofold, right? Like, why it's happening. You're like, oh, it's because I was beating myself up and being a dick to myself. Oh, and now you get something to do about it, right? Now you actually, so it's not even just about getting rid of the pain. You actually get to feel even better in all parts of your life, because who doesn't love feeling self-empowered and motivated and going after your dreams and, having better connections with people and knowing how to stand up for yourself and have boundaries so that you aren't people pleasing and trying to be perfect and letting go of that. And yeah, just like, that's what we all want, really. We just want to be at ease in our lives, but we're not realizing that all of these ways that we operate in life to sort of have this sense of control is creating all this pain. And so it's tricky, because part of the work is learning how to tolerate uncertainty in so many aspects of our lives. But that is actually the solution to the pain, tolerance to so many uncertainties. We might die one day. In fact, we all will die one day. But we got to let go of obsessing over that, or we just won't be enjoying our lives.
Yeah, it's forcing you to dig deep and to become your authentic self going through. So it's a gift, right? For me, if I didn't fall on my face hard with all these symptoms, I would have just been like, if somebody would have gave me all this information on a silver platter, I would have been like, yeah, I'll start next week. Maybe I'll start next year. I don't know. I needed to have the fear shake the shit out of me and have the horrible symptoms and the trauma of this journey, this shitstorm happen to me for me to stay on the path. I needed to have the fear. Like, the fear was my best friend. If I have to think about it, the fear is what kept me on the path. And now you literally become a new person. Like, your old self in a ways dies. You become the best authentic self. The best that we can, right?
Yeah.
Compared to before, that's a huge difference. It's a gift in disguise.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, the fear and the pain, like, it gets your attention, right? That's how it works. Like, if the nervous system wants to keep us alive and use a danger signal to protect us, to communicate to us, like, it's going to use something that's going to get our attention, that feels like it's life or death. And I mean, yeah, you're right. It's good that we have that. That's what's kept us alive for however many years our species has existed. So, and the irony to that is that we're doing all of these things that that are trying to address this issue physically, thinking that the body is like so frail and broken. And oh my god, if I went to one sports medicine place, the rehab, whatever, and they're like, stand on the balls of your feet like 30%, and then the front of your feet like 70%, and stand like this, and now you won't have, like, how is that going to fix my back pain? Like, that's hurting so much.
Managing.
Did
Totally
we have to
managing
do all of these things for like thousands and millions of years or whatever? Like, never had to
same thing with these special. And I did it too. Like, and they did work. Like, for example, the carnivore diet. I did that just because I was getting some relief from symptoms. It was great, even fasting, whatever. But as soon as I stopped, everything comes back, right? So I'm like, what's the point of that? Why wouldn't I just fully recalibrate my nerve? And you only find this stuff out later. Fully recalibrate my nervous system, and you're able to have the same thriving benefits. And I've mentioned this to my friend before. I'm like, you could be a guy that's really focused on trying to eat healthy, go on the best diets, and if you don't regulate your nervous system, you could die at 60 of a heart attack, compared to a guy who regulated his nervous system, smokes a cigar every day, eats Snickers, and eats a canned soup, and lives to be 104.
Yeah.
Right? That's what it is. That's the thing. And people are so, and I was too, hyper focused on, well, you got to try this. You got to fix the biome. We got to, micromanage the body constantly. And you're just chasing symptoms, and you'll never win. You'll actually get worse, usually 9 times out of 9.
Right. Yeah, and like every doctor will tell you, like stress is the cause of most disease and everything
Yeah.
too, right? And in fact, like all these mind body syndromes are all it's 100% stress. None of it is like a communicable disease that you catch from, and so that's
Yeah.
most of what we
Even
go
the
through.
word, even the word disease is, if you separate it, right? Dis-ease. Well, I'm like, there's your answer. It's been hidden in plain sight for all these years.
Yes, yes, I love all the like, hidden words, right?
Yeah. It's
Uh,
been right there the whole time.
uh, Even
So
the TMS. There's so many people have come up with so many different like
versions of it.
versions of like what it is. Like of course, it's tension myositis syndrome. We've got like too much stress, the
That's
mind
the one I
body
use.
syndrome. Yeah, there's I like to sometimes you know think of it as like telling me something. Like the symptoms are telling me something. TMS, telling me something, right? Or even
Yeah.
just stuff like tell me something. Like communicate with your symptom. Like, hey, what's going on? Converse with it. Dr. Sarno would say that too. Like, have a conversation with your symptom. That's kind of what I do
Yeah.
now. If I were to ever have a symptom, like literally just speak to it, because it's think of your symptom as like your inner child. Like, hey, what do you need right now? Like, hey, you're
Yeah.
literally calming down those danger neural circuits by like, hey, tell me something. What's your name? What's going on? Like, we might not get an answer back. Like, it's not going to be like a perfect conversation like that. They're not going to say like, hey,
Right.
I'm scared.
Exactly.
But you feel that they're scared. You feel it.
Right.
They're telling you something somatically. So we just want to like listen to what they're telling us.
Right. Because what's the point of an alarm? Is to be acknowledged. So it's sending you an alarm to perceive danger. You acknowledge it, and it's done its job. It's like, thank you for listening. Thank you for not resisting and avoiding. Because when you resist, I have to scream louder, and I have to throw the kitchen sink at you. But now that you're finally allowing this shit and listening to me, the baseline can finally start to drop down, and we can, I don't have to throw that many alarms at you. We can regulate. So
Yeah.
it's literally, that's how I think about it. I'm like, okay, let me show me what you got. Show me the fear. What do you got? Okay, yeah, I don't like that. Okay, right. So yeah, it's like having a relationship with your nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't have to know like all the content, like what repressed emotion was it, or what was it from
Yeah,
childhood, or like, and even though, yes, I know we were talking about journaling and it is good to get at those things, but those things are
yeah,
just exercises to train your brain. It doesn't
yeah,
matter really what the content is. You just want to get your brain in that habit of not being afraid of emotions, not being afraid of the sensations in your body or the sensations associated with emotions. And yeah, that is when that danger alarm mechanism is heard, the inner child, whatever you want to call it, it's like, oh, someone's listening to me. That's all they really care about.
yeah.
Oh, okay. I feel like I can speak my mind. I'm
Right,
the child, like, oh, okay. I feel validated. That's very big,
right.
validated in our lives. And then it's like, oh, okay, I can relax now. And then
Yeah,
those chemicals go down. You get
yeah.
into rest.
Listening to the your limbic system without fixing or analyzing or trying to figure it out, just letting it talk and do its thing. Yeah, that's amazing.
And that's a huge thing for people where they're just wanting to figure it out.
Yeah,
It's natural. Of course we want to figure it out. But then
I did
that,
it. I did it all the time.
yeah.
And then you learn. You go, okay, yeah, I got to stop figuring it out. You got to be aware that you're trying to figure it out. That's the hard part, because half the time you're not even aware. You're like, oh, okay, I caught it. See, I'm trying to figure it out. I'm ruminating. I'm fixing. I'm analyzing. I'm trying to, I ate this sandwich on Tuesday. I had symptoms, but now I don't have symptoms. So I'm right. Totally.
Yeah. So you got to let go of all that. But it's good you can
Yeah.
recognize, like, oh, that's another form of fear, right? Like figuring it out is just fear with a different face.
Yeah.
We could talk about the Dr. Schubinner's 7Fs. Have you heard of him mention this?
No,
Yeah.
I haven't heard the 7 Fs. What are they?
Yeah. So, there's different ways that we can interpret fear.
Yeah.
The first F is fear.
Yeah. Yeah.
The second F is focus. So if you're like hyper focused on your symptoms, obviously, like when we talk about neuroplastic pain, it's grabbing your attention. So the more we look at it, what we focus on grows and expands. So it's no
Yeah.
wonder that the pain increases, because it's just getting our focus. So a lot of the solution in this mind body work is changing our focus and trying to adopt more of an indifferent sort of stance to the symptoms. So that's focus. And then we've got frustration and
Nice. Yeah.
fighting. Those are another two. We've got figuring out, which we just mentioned.
Yeah.
We've got fixing.
Yeah.
So figuring out and fixing, they're similar as well. You know, a lot of the times before we even start a mind body journey, we're like trying to figure out what's structurally wrong with us. And then when we are on the mind body journey, we're trying to find out what's emotionally wrong with us. Or if we're trying to fix it, you know, physically, I used like a tennis ball and I jabbed in and I do all these things, which actually made it worse, even though it felt good at the time. Or you're trying to fix it in these other ways, like with too many mind body tools, like I have to regulate, I have to do somatic tracking, I have to do this. And then, so it just creates more intensity.
That's what I've noticed actually with some of the interviews I've talked to some people. They have, it's good to have all these tools, but they use them all as a weapon, like we mentioned earlier. It's like, well, when I feel like this, I use somatic tracking, and then when I feel like this, I use tapping, and then when I feel like this, I do the breathing, and then I have this, and I do. I'm like, how about just not doing all that and just sit in that shit, allow it to be there, fully be scared, and then engage. But they have all these tools. Well, I have to, right?
True. Yeah, that's so true.
And all you're doing is you're reaffirming to the brain that you're doing something to get rid of what? Danger. So let's keep that alarm on, because he's fucking giving her, right? He's like, to get rid of. But if you're doing it because you enjoy it and it makes you feel, you know, then okay, that's a little different. But exposure, it's like, I know I don't like doing it. I didn't like doing it, but I had to do it. But I didn't do it necessarily to get rid of it, right? I just did it because I knew I had to process it, to allow it to be there, to introduce a new program of ease. Yes. So same thing with people could say, well, how about you talk about visuals? You're doing, aren't you doing that to get rid of? I'm like, not really, because you're doing visuals to bring down the baseline, to introduce a new program, right? And same thing with elevating. Why are you elevating? Well, because we're elevating to bring down the baseline, to introduce a new program of ease. Same thing, right? It's the way you kind of look at it in a different lens. Yeah. But if you look at it in the wrong lens, all of a sudden it has a different meaning. Like I used to go for walks to burn cortisol so I could go to sleep. And then I had to change my mindset and go, you know what? I'm going to go for a walk because I enjoy the walks. And the bonus is that I get to go to sleep. But if I enjoy the walks, it brings my baseline down. And the consequence is that you're going to have less alarms, less insomnia, and that works out. It's kind of, so it matters how you see the reasons why you're doing certain things, the different lenses.
Totally. Yeah. And going from like symptom focused to solution focused, where it's like, we're not doing this for the pain or for the symptom, we're doing this for the nervous system. I always just like to say nervous system is just to like relax us. And so, yeah, the fixing and figuring it out is so hard though, because like we do want to do things, right? Just like how you said earlier, like we can't be saying like, we're doing these things, we can't declare it, but because, and Nicole Sachs would even say, desire to be anything other than we are is read by the nervous system as fear. So we can't desire the need to fix it, or, then we have this resistance. Yeah. And then the seventh one, the final F, is feeling forlorn, just feeling like completely hopeless and this despair and feeling like don't have any hope and all these things. We want to actually believe that we can get better. And so many people are getting stuck in this, particular form of fear because they know that this is possible. They understand the science, but they don't think it can happen for them. So that's the last one.
That's awesome that you can remember all the F's.
The last
good,
one,
man.
The last one was actually one that I submitted to him, and he has now added it. So
nice. I should submit one. I should say fuck it and allow it. There's the last F.
Oh, I like that. Yeah, we can keep coming up with more.
Yeah. I like that's awesome. Okay, well, one more question. If somebody were to start, if you were to actually, you know what? If you were to go back in time and you were to visit yourself starting this journey, right? What would you tell yourself?
Oh, wow. Jeez. It's going to be okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's kind of one of those questions that almost like makes you like teary, like, oh, you're talking to your inner child, like, and that's what they need to hear, is that it's going to be okay.
Oh yeah. Big time. Things I wouldn't want to give too much, because I want my past self to fuck up, make the mistakes, and authentically learn this shit. But I want to, maybe I would say, because I just thought of this question. I want to ask this question to myself too. Yeah. Maybe I would say, just keep going. You'll find the answer. Don't give up.
Absolutely. Yeah. And commit to it. Like you were saying earlier too, like you really do have to decide for yourself, like you're going to do this, and then trust that it's going to work, because we're telling you this, everyone's telling you this, like this works. Like
Yeah.
the proof is in the pudding. Like I was on the floor for over a year. I couldn't sit in a chair. I couldn't go anywhere in a car. I never went anywhere. I never did anything. And so that's pretty powerful stuff. There's nothing more important than actually feeling okay in your own body. Otherwise, it completely robs you of everything. Like you can't think about anything else. So
Yeah.
you just have to, like, you have nothing else to lose, like nothing to lose, right? There's nothing you can do. Like you got to do this. It's like, it's the solution.
Well,
Right?
the way you could say it is you're going to feel like shit anyway. So you might as well feel like shit and try this. And you
Yep.
might be surprised. And then when you are surprised, there's your evidence and you'll build from that.
Yeah. Yeah. And people are so scared too, right? And rightfully so at the beginning, right? It's like, so find that little bit of evidence, like you just said, like just even if it's a little bit, and cling to that, cling to those little moments, because through neuroplasticity, this is why this big name neuroplastic pain is so popular now. We grow that, we grow and expand that, right? And we can just create more of that by doing very unique tools in a very unique way to have more of those, less pain moments, and increase that. I mean, that's kind of what happened when I started. If you think about it, like I read the book and then I had moments of no pain. Well, there was that evidence, and I could cling to that and be like, okay, I know that this works. Even though the pain came back, you almost have amnesia. You're like, wait, did it go away? Was I okay? I don't know now, right?
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Especially,
God.
I had amnesia with symptoms when they went away and then they came back. And I was like, did I ever have this? Yeah, same thing. My brain wouldn't let me remember because this way it had an effect when it came back. Smart. Brain's so smart.
Yeah. One helpful tool with that, I think, like I encourage clients to record themselves. Like, I don't know, we don't have dictaphones anymore, but you could use your cell phone, whatever, to write, like to literally record your voice and say like, hey, like you have no pain right now. Like you're good. Like, so it's a reminder that you can get back there. Your neural pathways can go back there. And you want to always be keeping track of that evidence that this is how this works.
Yep. One more question. I was wondering, when you go into this journey, did it change your view of the spiritual realm? Did you become more spiritual at all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. The spiritual piece is huge, right? And
massive.
Yeah. Just, everything, like tapping into a sense of awe is really helpful for the healing journey. I used a lot of nature.
Yes.
Connectedness with nature, the universe. A lot of the times I would do a lot of the pain reprocessing tools literally lying in the grass and using that at my disposal. This sense of purpose that we have in relation to spirituality, how we identify our self as well, and feeling empowered in ourself, is so profound as well. Yeah.
I think it forces us to be in touch with our spiritual higher self, because your 3D environment surrounded by smokes and mirrors, and you have nothing. Everything's lying to you. Everything's saying you're going to be sick. You can't do this. Even your body, your physical body, right, is saying, no, 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 you're sick. And then, you're forced to tap into something and have faith to cross that invisible bridge.
Right.
And then you get the evidence, and then you're like, I thought I was spiritual before, but no, fuck, I wasn't even I thought I was, but no, this is different. It's like an awakening.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's how it feels when the pain goes away. I remember I was running on a beach in Mexico, and I literally started crying. Like it was like an epiphany. I was like, oh my God. Like it felt like that's the closest thing I've had to, an awakening, or whatever we could call it that. Right. Like, it was bizarre. And I think it's funny because during that same week, I was experiencing like the vacation effect, and I was maybe only 2 months into my journey reading the books and whatnot, but I was also at the same time reading a book, The Law of Attraction. And so that was in a funny way, like calming the danger neural circuits as well, because I was kind of addressing, spirituality and these things, and what we focus on grows and expands, and, creating more life just based on how I think and perceive things. And we kind of learned that the world is really your oyster, and you get to decide like how you want to play with it. And funnily enough, like we've unintentionally created this world of suffering and symptoms because we've been so cut off and
Yeah.
not like taking it in a way where we are meant to. And so making that shift, knowing that there is this connection between mind, body healing and spirituality gives you all this room to grow and get better. And
It's like the same thing. It's like a universal law that you stumble upon with the training of the physical part of yourself. And then, you tap into your higher self. And then, I used it for not just, physical stuff, but after I used it for relationships, business, and to literally create my reality. It's like the same methods you use the exact same way to manipulate the energy to create your reality, things that you prefer in life. It's amazing.
yeah, and that's where we get to when we say like symptoms are a gift, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to hear that at the beginning of their journey, but
No.
they're literally the messenger to tell you like, hey, you're not paying attention to this. And so they're kind of almost, yeah, just they're gonna enlighten you to what you are, how to feel spiritually aligned, like just like a little nudge, just a little, whatever shooting pain in the body is gonna say like, hey, like you need to think about this differently. This is not aligned with who you are and what you're meant to be doing in this universe. And yeah,
You become superhuman. Or was it the Joe Dispenza says superhuman or super?
supernatural.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Have you read the book?
I have it. I read maybe one chapter of all his books.
Yeah.
It's good shit. Well, and I also did Audible and YouTube because it was for free on YouTube. And I listened to most of his stuff, but like maybe a couple of chapters, right? Because he's got a lot of stuff. I did his breath work, which was really hard because you're holding your breath for like 18 hours. It's like, man, how are they not passing out doing this shit?
Do a lot of Wim Hof too.
Oh, Wim Hof, yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of similarities to Wim Hof in the mind body work because he's literally regulating his nervous system by stressing it out with the ice.
Yeah, that's right.
Stress response. Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah, and I was doing a lot of the breath Wim Hof breathing. Again, it can be a pitfall because I was doing that in the phase where I was really trying to fix the pain with the breathing, but
Right.
I was in such panic and fear. So it did kind of, give me something to do in those moments. Like it felt like I had a little bit more of control, but it was still not the right intention. It was still communicating that I needed the pain to go away just by doing Wim Hof every day. And like, oh, if you don't do your Wim Hof, 20 minutes, your symptoms.
I triggered a couple of people on the Wim Hof sites. I was like, it's not the fucking breathing. I'm like, what's happening is he's triggering a stress response on purpose. And then the way he responds, it's giving the brain an opportunity to reset, and he's able to bring his baseline down. And that's all it is. You're changing the danger response to safety.
Yeah.
And the cold water is the way that you use it to give you that stress response. That's it. I'm like, the breathing, fuck the breathing. Don't worry about the breathing. Just breathe normal. And then people are like, okay, you don't understand. There's certain meridian lines and there's certain special, right? I'm like, okay,
yeah. Funny you mentioned, the cold water thing too is interesting. Before I even knew anything about mind body, I remember being in constant 24/7 pain, going up to my parents. They live up in Lake Huron and here in Ontario. And just one day I was in the water all day long, but floating doesn't really help. You'd think like a lot of people say, oh, being in water, it helps your joints. Like, ooh, I'm like, no, be in the water, like in pain. But something happened one day, like I maybe spent like 3 or 4 hours in the water. And I think, that did activate my parasympathetic in such a way that evening, lying on the couch and I had less. And I'm convinced that, I wasn't doing anything else, mind body wise, that it must have been, the benefits of nature, the benefits of the
beautiful
water to regulate my nervous system. Because I didn't understand. I was like, okay, I have less pain right now. I mean, I loved that, but I didn't understand why that was happening.
But at the same time, when I was going through the journey and I was still, let's say near the middle, I was still sensitive. I tried to do cold water plunge. I think I did that here in my help because Canada, you get fucking cold water in the winter, right? So I tried it, and for a week I had symptoms flying through the roof, skin like my body's like, dude, you're just pouring fire all over the fucking gasoline. And then I learned, okay, I'm not ready for this shit.
Oh wow. Well, maybe your brain thought you're trying to fix the symptoms with the cold water, and it's just going to resist more.
Yeah, it was pretty instant. I had looping thoughts. I'm like, okay, I'm not ready for this. So now, like, I'm still a chicken shit. I can't do the cold plunges yet, but I do cold showers, pretty cold, and I can handle it. No big deal. I'm at a different place now. Like I've recovered, but in the beginning, it's like triggering. It was too much. It was too much on my plate, right? I thought, oh, this is good. It heals so many things, but I was just not ready. And I've seen it also with other people. They're using the sauna, cold water plunges in the beginning of their journey, and it was just too overwhelming for them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, just give it a break. It's for now. It's temporary. You'll come back to it. And then they had a little bit of relief. They're like, okay, so this one less thing, I'm able to do this. Then eventually when they recovered, then, oh, fuck, some of these people, I don't know how they do it, how they can be in the eye. Like some of the videos you see, like, well, Wim Hof, you go to, Denmark or Poland, or even here, how they're able to just, wow, it's incredible.
Like on New Year's Day, everybody goes into the Great Lakes. Yeah. What do we call that?
Polar bear swim or whatever.
Yeah, polar bear. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's I think
awesome.
even like cold water, all these tools, whatnot. Like a lot of people are doing them, and they hear about Wim Hof, and they're like, okay, it's this cool nervous system hack. But without this added layer of understanding, like the brain and nervous system and TMS or mind-body symptoms, whatever we want to call it, those relief mechanisms may only be temporary. We have to actually fundamentally understand and have this understanding that that we are okay, that there is nothing, that the belief is the bedrock of it all. Otherwise, they aren't going to spark the actual tool into place. And we really want to kind of always be understanding that that these are just neural circuits. There's nothing dangerous. There's nothing to fix. There's nothing structurally wrong with the body. So people have to fundamentally believe that their pain is not coming from the discs. It's not coming from the structures of the body, and that the brain can cause like this significant amount of pain. Because if somebody's just like, oh, I've got bulging discs, oh, that's causing my pain, and they go do Wim Hof and ice baths, like they're never going to get better if they keep believing.
Right.
Reconceptualize how you perceive pain in your mind-body system and in your recovery too.
Right. And then you're going to have to keep doing it. Same thing with being going to the chiropractor. Sure, you might get relief in the short term, but you got to keep going to your appointments, right? They're just managing, just like diets and everything else. Yeah.
Yeah, that's why people are like, "Oh, my chiropractor's great. I feel great for a week, and I go back, and he's my best friend." And
yeah. No, I'm happy that I just discovered this mind body thing. Thank you for coming on. This has been a great discussion, and thank you for sharing everything that you went through. And please send me an email with all your contacts of how people can reach you for if you need any coaching or anything like that. I'll put it in the description and the link below, and then people can get a hold of you.
Great. Thank you for having me. It's been fun catching up.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, had a good time.
I know it's been a long time coming. There were some things that got in the way, and I had a bizarre illness last month, which is a whole other story.
But hey, you had the tools. You knew how to get through it.
Yeah.
Right? Life was, really happening, but now you have the tools. It's like,
yeah. And there's a mind-body aspect to everything. We're always in a mind-body system. So, I'm always learning and growing from it. So, but yeah, it's been such a pleasure today to do this. And and we're neighbors-ish. We're like,
no shit, eh?
So hopefully we'll get together.
We should get you and me, Vanessa and Simona. She's also, I think, in Toronto. We should get together and have like a couple of drinks and do a podcast or something. That'd be fun.
Ooh, wow. Yeah. That'd be cool too. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Thank you.